All right, everybody. So let's go ahead and talk about VC Lab, what it is, what it does, and how it works, okay? But before I do that, there's a lot of like negative news right now for some reason. And it's just, we're not seeing any of it, okay? We're not seeing any of it. Alumni are closing at unprecedented rates. We have seen more LP commitments into VC Lab alumni than ever. So a lot of the stuff that you're seeing on the internet or whatever is just not right. And the reason that this is happening is because venture capital as a whole is kind of a big industry, right? You've got like a lot of these mega funds, and then you have a whole new subset of the industry for new and emerging managers, which is what you all are. And that's running under different conditions altogether, okay? And so a lot of the stuff that you're seeing, with the reporting in PitchBook and all that other stuff, it's largely not true. They're using inaccurate data, and we're not seeing any of this stuff. This is probably one of the best times, if not the best time ever, to start a fund. The market conditions are really ripe for that. There's a lot of great innovations, a lot of good founders starting companies. This is probably going to be one of the best vintage years in venture capital coming up, okay? So what do? VC Lab, as an accelerator, we help you close your fund significantly faster, okay? That's what this is. You go into this program, and you're going to get the content, curriculum, community, and I'll talk about all the details about that. And you're going to close a lot faster, okay? The program is completely free. You have access to a free community, mentorship, tools, all the stuff. There's no catch here, none of that stuff. This isn't a freemium program. This isn't a program that's like, hey, let me give you this sort of kind of weak experience so that I can upsell you into something that you pay for. None of that. It is absolutely free. Our entire purpose of existence, for those of you that joined late, is to help new and emerging managers thrive and sort of fix the entire ecosystem as a whole, because there's a lot of problems altogether. So this program is free. This is what it is. There's no catch. There's nothing like that. So just wanted to make sure you understand that, because we get a lot of questions about that. But of course, as always, I'm happy to answer more questions, okay? The program is 3 months typically, okay? And it's a closing program, okay? This isn't a place where you come to learn about venture capital, about the core concepts of venture capital or something like this. This is a closing program. You're going to say, hey, I want to go ahead and close a fund by the end of the program, okay? And yeah, the program is free, but it's super hard, okay? It's, again, in order for you to finish the program, you have to start a closing on your fund, okay? It's like a closing program. So let's go ahead and talk about the timelines and how things work and why things work significantly faster in a VC Lab sort of methodology versus if you're sort of just kind of trying to do this on your own, okay? So the first month, we help you ensure that you validate the thesis, okay? The thesis is what you're going to do, what you're going to actually fund. A lot of people mess this up. So they don't put a lot of effort into the thesis, and everything that you write into the thesis becomes goes into what your pitch is. You're going to all the deck is an expansion of the thesis. So all of your materials, everything that you do just doesn't work if your thesis is not good. So a good thesis means that you tell LPs this thesis and they're committing on the spot, okay? Sign letters of intent. That's what it means to have a good thesis. Until you're at that point, it makes absolutely no sense for you to be building complicated fund models, decks, materials, like none of this stuff, okay? Like, so even if you're not gonna be in the program, do not waste your time building materials. Do not waste your time with back office vendors and all this other crap that you don't really need right now, okay? What you need is to have a really good thesis, and you need to tell LPs about this thesis, and they need to commit, and then you know you're onto something, okay? So we spend a lot of time to ensure that you're doing on your thesis. Now, at this point here, and you see this, like this says thesis review, everybody here at this point, so 4 or 5 weeks into the program, everybody here is going to have signed letters of intent from limited partners, okay? That's how the program works. So you're going to tell LPs these are you're going to have, so now it's like validated, okay? This is actually a viable thesis. Okay, cool. Now let's go out and start building out everything else that you need for your fund. All of your materials, so you can start passing diligence with family offices and institutionals. all of your things, all of the deal warehouse, if you're going to be warehousing deals into the fund, all that, right? And now that you have this stuff, you can comprehensively start pitching a lot of LPs with something that is actually working. And you're going to be able to convert at a much higher clip because you know that everything is sort of working, right? So everybody is going to be at a position by month 4 here to start beginning a closing process for your fund based on sort of this methodology here, okay? But everything's sort of lined up sequentially for you, okay? That's the reason that this works, because like I said, it doesn't make sense to build a deck if you don't have a good thesis. It doesn't make sense for you to go out and blow out your network to find LPs with a crappy pitch, right? Because you're gonna convert 1 in 100, right? It's like, so you don't want to be in that situation. So what we've done, and this is again, cohort 15. So we iterate, we rewrite the curriculum every single cohort based on things that happened in previous cohorts, based on market conditions and all that other stuff. And we rebuild, the program and what it's doing, right? And so this is basically on a high level, sort of how the program works and how every single module kind of builds on top of each other. And that's why it's so much faster for you to close a VC fund through VC Lab versus not. So let's just put this into perspective. Okay, the average VC Lab alumni closes does a first close in roughly 4 months. Okay, outside of VC Lab, the average first closing takes people 18 to 24 months, right? Because they do a lot of these things out of order, right? They're wasting time with back office vendors. They're wasting time with lawyers. They're wasting time building materials, even though they have a thesis that's not resonating with LPs, right? They're doing a lot of things out of order. And because of that, it just takes a long time. They're mistargeting LPs. This is a huge problem that we see in the industry, right? Like we see a lot of people going after the wrong LPs, even though those LPs are never going to fund you because you're a new manager, right? And most LPs are prevented by charter from backing you, right? So why are you wasting your time pitching these fund of funds that will never back you, right? This is a good example of that, right? And so you got to make sure that you have perfect thesis, GP, LP market fit. And when you do that, you can rinse and repeat that and become really successful at your craft, right? And this is what VC Lab alumni do. And that's why they're able to close do a first close much faster. And as a result of that, do a fund 1 much faster. And therefore they can move on to fund 2 much faster and things like that, right? We have a number of VC Lab alumni right now who started with us roughly about 2 years ago, and now they're on fund 2, right? And fund 3 and things like that. So they're able to kind of move on through the cycles a little much faster clip, okay? So how do we sort of do that, okay? First, we have a kind of standard curriculum that people work through, okay? In addition to that, we have several sort of specialized tracks. For example, we have AI tracks for folks that are working on AI funds. We have impact tracks for people that are working on impact, accelerators for accelerator people, studios for all the venture studios that are coming in. There's like a kind of renaissance of venture studios right now, right? And we sort of work with emerging, and we sort of work with you in kind of these sort of specialized kind of calls so that we can provide you with targeted feedback for what you're working on, okay? Then you have a huge community for new and emerging managers, over 1,000 managers worldwide. And it's just a major competitive advantage, right? Just because you're not on your own, you have all this group of people helping you, sharing deals, doing all sorts of stuff. And you can talk about stuff like your LPs, your experience, deals, and be able to sort of work with each other and get good responses for stuff. So this is a huge competitive advantage that you have. In addition to that, we bring in mentors every single week to help you, right? From ultra experienced, people that have launched and have built enduring venture capital firms to, previous cohort participants that are just slightly ahead of you, but we're really successful, and therefore you can learn from them. So we, fund operations experts, LPs, all of that we bring into the program to help you, and then you can ask them questions, and these sessions are very interactive. In addition to that, you get a suite of free tools, because again, what's the point of our existence, right? Is to sort of reduce the friction for people to start and launch these enduring venture capital firms, okay? And so, everybody here is going to get access to Decile Hub. Decile Hub has become the operating system for venture capital. So what you used to have to do before Decile Hub, just as a kind of side note here, you used to have to couple together like 15 different tools, Notion with Gmail, with Airtable, with whatever, right? And you would sort of do this through a Zapier integration, which is just bonkers if you think about it, right? You're managing millions and millions of dollars for the next 10 to 20 years of your life, and you're going to do that on a Zapier integration. Like, just the thought of that is just bonkers, right? But people had to do that because they just didn't have like specialized tools, and no one really kind of went at this problem from first principles. And so we just started seeing a lot of these struggles through the VC Lab Accelerator. So we just built basically what the community asked us for. And so now Decile Hub has become basically the operating system for venture capital. I've hosted several sessions on this, so I don't really want to go too deep into this, but it covers everything: deal flow, LP, all your back office, data rooms, events, everything integrated in one place securely, so that you're not like having to deal with all these crazy Zapier integrations. Okay. In addition to that, you have a venture specific LLM that's been trained only on our data to answer any venture specific situation. How much capital should I call? LP wrote me this email. How would you reply to this email? It would like write it specifically based on venture, and it's trained only on our data. So it doesn't go out to the internet and try to find additional stuff. It goes only on stuff that's been pre-vetted by us and by our team of experts. So it becomes a huge competitive advantage. Okay. And we're innovating as always, right? We're just trying to constantly clear the way for you. So for example, we're building a global LP network. We have a program called the LP Institute, where we're training LPs on how to invest in new and emerging managers. And they're already committing lots and lots of capital, especially to alumni. We're building complete deal flow sharing tools and systems within Decile Hub so that you can collaborate on deals. We're just launched an events platform. Many of you are going to be hosting lots of events in order to be able to sort of fundraise as well as for your portfolio. So yeah, this is going to be a crazy, crazy good year for venture. We're working to clear the way for you as much as we possibly can. And, we're all here to help. And so what I want to do now is just spend some time answering questions for you, because we've gone through sort of on a high level how the program works, what it does. I see that there's some questions that have come into the Q&A. If you have questions about what the program is and how it works and other things like that, make sure that you add them into the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and make sure that you upvote. And then I'm more than happy to answer questions for you about the experience. Okay. But really quickly, one quick announcement, everyone. Can you please just humor me? If you're on your phone right now or doing something else, again, maximum respect, and I'm not like judging or anything, but I really need you to pay attention to this right now. Okay, so please pay attention. All right. We have sent out a number of acceptances to people to join the next cohort, right? And so in order for you to be fully accepted and enrolled, you have to confirm your enrollment, okay? And you do that by sharing the Mensarius Oath, okay, which is an ethical code of conduct that we need you to share, because I only want to work with people that believe in these principles anyways, and the whole community has been built this way. So if you want to learn about the Mensarius Oath and why we make you share it publicly, you can go to that link. You're going to have to share this on like LinkedIn, and you're going to have to send the admissions team a link to say, hey, I've shared this on LinkedIn, and now we sort of go ahead and process your enrollment, okay? So if you want to join the next cohort, okay, I need you to finish your enrollment. And if you did not get the email or something like this, feel free to email programs@decilegroup.com. But we've sent acceptances to quite a lot of people, and we're waiting for people to complete their enrollment. All right. Otherwise, we're just not going to enroll you. Okay. So just wanted to put that out there. If in case you had questions about that or whatever, happy to answer them. All right. So there's 9 questions right now in the Q&A. Everyone, it would really help me if you went through and also upvote them. This way I can sort of prioritize the ones that are really important to the community. Happy to help, okay? I understand that you're seeking individuals with prior startup investment experience. What if our team is comprised of members with varying levels of investment? Will the program consider collective team, or are you primarily focused on individual experience? That's not necessarily that's not necessarily accurate, James. We've had a number of people be very successful in the accelerator program in raising funds with very little startup experience, startup investing experience. Okay, the key is, what makes you uniquely qualified to go after this opportunity. For example, we've had, you know, conference organizers in specific regions where they saw pretty much all of the startups because they all came to this 1 or 2 or 3 events, right? So they have an enormous amount of access as a result of that. So if they were to sort of build out a fund to sort of back the top 10 of that one, whatever pitch competition they had, right? That could be a pretty interesting secret sauce. Okay. So, those are all important. So the biggest issue that we see in admissions is kind of twofold. One, we see a huge mismatch between the experience of the team and the thesis. So I'm making this up, but let's say that you're going to launch a crypto fund and I have a team of 3 doctors on it. And they're like, we're launching a crypto fund. It's like, why are you launching a crypto fund? That makes no sense, right? So there's got to be a reason why you're uniquely qualified to manage people's money on this sort of thesis that you have for the next 20 years. And that's something that we sort of look for. Okay. So that's number 1, right? So it's like, is there enough of that? Number 2, it's sort of like commitment, like, look, I mean, if you're going to do this, you got to commit a good amount of time to it, right? And all the program does is make that process easier for you, but you still got to commit. And so we need to see that you actually want to do this for a while and manage and launch an enduring VC firm. Okay, this is not a place to launch a fund, right? This is for people that want to launch VC firms. And by the way, it economically doesn't make sense for you to just launch a fund anyways. Like, you're going to need to have multiple funds in order for your business to have enough revenue for it to be successful over the next 15 to 20 years. Okay. All right. Hopefully that was helpful. If you guys need additional context on that, add more questions. How many cohorts are run on each year on average? If we miss this cohort, when would be the next session? We typically do about 4, and so that's some 4.5 sometimes, because sometimes we'll start one in like late Q4 and goes through to the next year kind of thing, but generally 4. And so the next one will launch, I believe, in I think it's going to be in the October timeframe, if I'm not mistaken, but something like that. So this will be the 3rd cohort we run this year, cohort 15, and then we're going to also do a cohort 16. Hi, I would have loved that the VC Lab adopted a flexible platform, since the current one doesn't show the status of the application. I'm not really sure what that means, but basically, we will notify people of their enrollment status, right? And so just make sure that you get the emails and look for that. Okay. Can you speak to the schedule during the program? How many hours of programming versus self-paced work per week? So that's a really good question, Emil, or Emily, sorry. Look, you're going to raise a fund, okay? And that's going to take a lot of time. There's nothing that we're going to ask you to do that's busy work. This isn't a learning program. This is like a closing program. You're going to close, and we're just packaging it in a way that you're going to be much more efficient, and the return on investment per unit of time spent is going to be significantly higher. And again, we've been iterating on this over 14 cohorts, and it's just getting better and better every single time. And so that's what this is. And so if you're going to go out and raise a fund, you're going to have to spend a lot of time at it. Okay. Maybe while you're ideating and trying to figure this out, maybe you're going to spend 25, maybe 30 hours a week on it. But once you're going into like a actual fundraising where you're pitching 15 LPs a week and you go into a closing program, it's going to go up to 40, 50 hours, right? And then when you're in closing, it's going to be even higher than that, right? Potentially. Okay. And this is not a program thing. It's just a fundraising thing. And so what the program does is just that it just aligns everything correctly. Now, there's certain things that are beneficial to you. So for example, we host 2 sessions a week, one on Monday, which is basically an AMA with myself on various topics, and one, actually for your cohort, for this cohort, it's gonna be Tuesday, Thursday. So whatever, 2 sessions a week. One's an AMA, one's kind of a session with a mentor, where we go in things like we talk to an LP or we talk to a previous alumni or whatever, we talk to a compliance expert, whatever the case may be, right? And then you get to ask those questions. So that's like, 2 hours a week that you're dedicating to like learning, I guess, if you want to call it that. We have group office hours available. Those typically are about half hour, so you can sort of put that in. And then like the curriculum work that you need to do, it's always self-paced. It's just due the next week. On a certain date. For you is going to be the next Thursday, and that is stuff that everybody has to do, at some point or another. And what we're saying is, if you do it when we tell you to do it, you're just going to be able to get to the promised land. In this case, to do a first close on your fund much faster. So that's what you're going to have to do. So hopefully that's useful and helpful here as you're kind of embarking on this journey. What, yeah, when does cohort 15 start and end? When do we receive the week by week schedule? This stuff is on our website, right? So if you go to govclab.com, you can actually see the schedule of the program. You can actually see like kind of what the sessions are and stuff like that. And where it ends. We shared it in the chat. I think that's where you would want to go. How does Decile Hub compare to PitchBook? It doesn't. Decile Hub is basically like the entire operating system for your fund. It's like a CRM, so you don't have to go out and, buy Affinity or build this out yourself and like Airtable. It comes with email templates. It's got a full-on mailer, everything that you need to close people. It's got full-on back office, full-on accounting, data room, so you don't have to buy DocSend, event system, so you don't have to use Eventbrite. It's all integrated to run your ops, and it's 100% built in a very, very sort of responsive way with the VC Lab community upvoting features and things like that. It's purpose built for new and emerging managers to thrive. So that's what it is. PitchBook is basically like a data company, and it's pretty shitty at it, right? It's like some of the worst data in the world right now, especially in your world, like new and emerging managers, comes from PitchBook. It's just not good data, right? And so, like PitchBook is good for other stuff. Like it's really good for the other side of venture where people have like very large funds and things like that, where they're, able to get better information. It's better for like later stage stuff. It's better for some of the like private equity stuff and things like that. For like this world of new and emerging managers is just not very good and reliable. And so, it's generally not worth the, I don't know, $20,000, $30,000 a year they charge for the subscription. What kind of size of LP network do we need to bring to the table from day one of the program? Well, again, Ed, I'm going to assume you're a new manager, and that you don't have a fund two, and you're an emerging manager, but I'm assuming you're a new manager. So if you're a new manager, most of your fund, if not at least half of it, is probably going to come from people in your network. Okay. Naturally, it's a pretty risky thing to back a new manager because basically you haven't done it before. And even if you did sort of do it before, so let's say that you were employed at a VC firm and have done a lot of stuff at a VC firm, the stuff that you generally did at that VC firm is just not very applicable to what you're going to do to the new VC firm. So for example, most general partners in VC firms that are spinning out to start new funds have never fundraised before. You know, most of them can't get attribution for the deals that they did at that previous VC firm. So you're still kind of starting from scratch. And as a result of that, like LPs just find you more risky, right? And so who's going to back what I would call a risky new manager that's effectively has never managed money professionally before at this level, right? It's generally going to be people in your network that trust you and really believe in the thesis and in you. And that's typically how a lot of these first closes get done. Okay. Once you get through that, then their network's going to, you know, they're going to become connectors to future LPs and things like that. So networks and networks are probably going to get you kind of halfway through. And once you're sort of halfway through the fundraise, now you've got like some investments that you've made, you've got some really good deal memos, you've got some stuff that allows you to sort of pass diligence at like what I would call the family office level. Now you can go out and see if you can fill the rest of the fund with some family offices and things like that. That's typically how these fundraisers go. But, you know, you really need to have a good network. Now, look, you can't be in venture in general without a good network because venture as a whole is a network business. That's what it is. So, you know, that's one of the things we look for in the applications. Like, do you really have a network to be able to succeed? And if that's something that we're a little unsure on, then maybe we don't make an admissions decision, right? But generally, the folks that make it into the program and are accepted into the program, we've at least checked like some basics on it, and then you're going to test out your network during that first week when you're going to go out and tell people in your network about your thesis and things like that, and see if they actually sign letter of intents to get into your fund. Okay. What's the acceptance rate of the cohort? Good question. So typically we get roughly about 3,000 or so people starting applications every single cohort. We accept roughly 250 firms. That's usually maybe 300 managers into the program. And then again, you have to close to finish the program, right? And so then the program takes over from there. And I would say out of those 300, typically about 50 end up graduating the program and closing, and the others end up dropping out and maybe coming back to a future cohort. So hopefully that gives you some idea about how our process works. For full enrollment, do we need to sign a pact with an LP as part of the pre-curriculum? Yeah, you need to have a pact signed for the pre-curriculum if you got that. Okay. All right. How relevant is for a new fund from Asia, for example, Southeast Asia? Good call. We have a number of funds from Southeast Asia in the program, every single program. You know, we've launched funds in Malaysia, you know, we've launched funds in the Philippines, like, you know, like it's a global program team. Okay. 66% of alumni are outside of the United States. And it works across the board in every region that you're in. These principles are the same everywhere. And so you can definitely do that. Now, the only thing I would say about Asia is that, you know, you're going to have like some time zone issues, and that you might not be able to attend some of the sessions live, but every session is recorded so that you can watch it on your own time. So no big deal, you know. But yeah, no, we launch funds in Asia all the time. Does the VC Lab platform include recommended templates for the legal docs for the fund we'll need? And would my fund just need to hire its own attorney to review possibly tweak the legal docs? Yeah, none of that. None of that. Okay. There's definitely templates, and maybe we can put the Cornerstone LPA on the call here, but you cannot work with your own lawyer for this. Okay, Robert, this is super dangerous. Don't do that. Again, everybody here, I know right now it looks like you're kind of a small kind of startup VC firm, but you're not that different from Fidelity. okay? You're building like this, you're managing people's money with the utmost highest level of like fiduciary responsibility, period. And so to do this right, you have to work with ultra specialized people, lawyers, the entire full-on back office team. Compliance is a huge problem right now. I spent a lot of time on this in previous calls. So no, you're going to have to work with super specialized people about that, but don't worry about it. We'll cover that in the program later. But this is not the kind of thing that you can cut corners on. You can cut corners like this in startup world because it's like a startup, and if it doesn't work out, you can just shut it down. I mean, if it doesn't work out for you as a fund manager, it's a huge problem, right? Because you're managing people's money for 15 years, right? It's like a huge commitment, right? So like, no, you have to get this done right if you're going to get it done. And we'll cover that. But again, this is the last thing that you need to think about. This is the difference between a VC fund and a startup. In a startup, you just incorporate the thing on Stripe, Atlas, whatever you get going. No, here you only start talking to vendors, lawyers, all this other stuff, and they're going to be expensive because they should be, because it's a complicated financial product. But you only do that when you have enough hard circled via letters of intent from limited partners to know that this is viable and you can have a go at it, right? And so that's why you don't want to waste any time on these things. Just make sure that the fund in itself is viable to begin with, and then you'll see that if it makes sense or not to get it done. Can the VC be under the form of an investment firm corporation, and can it be in Vietnam? We've had funds in Vietnam. That's not an issue. VCs typically have a very predefined fund structure, and you want to use that, right? Like if this is like so let me take a step back, because I see there's like it's called founder, the account here is FI, Founder Institute. This is not that different from FI, okay? This is a program for founders of venture capital firms. If you're currently employed at a company and the company wants to start a corporate VC fund, this program is not going to be useful for you, and we can't work with you anyways. Okay, this is for people that want to launch enduring venture capital firms and want to do this as a career for the next 10, 15, 20 years of their life, right? And so all the principles, everything we talk about is designed for that. Even if it's just a tiny fund one, the whole purpose of fund one is to get you to fund two, to fund three, fund four, that kind of level. So just make sure that you are aligned well before you embark on this. But yeah, if you're sort of employed by a company that yeah, it's not a good fit for this. Okay. I see that there's a good amount of questions coming in. Please upvote them. It will really help me prioritize. What is the usual management fees for VCs? We have an entire article on this. We'll post it into the chat for everybody here, but typically it's 2% average over the lifetime of the fund. So 2% a year for 10 years. What if I don't have a thesis in place? Can I still apply? Yes. A lot of people don't have a thesis in place. As a matter of fact, a lot of the people that have a thesis go into the program and they end up throwing it away or improving it quite a lot because of the program structure. So don't worry about it. That's okay. Okay. What's your advice about font size under impact track for first-time manager? What would be the best location in the world for fundraising for climate tech fund? Can I set this up outside of my home country? Here's what I would say is, small is great. Okay. The best funds, some of the best funds, if not arguably the best funds in recent memory, all had a really tiny fund one. Okay. First round capital, $4 million. Lowercase capital. This is Chris Saka's fund. This is the best performing fund of all time, $7 million. Initialized capital, again, one of the they have like, I don't know, almost like, I don't know, I feel like $1 billion under management, some crazy number. It's like, $6 million. Felice's Ventures, they now have $1 billion under management, right? $4 million. So or five, I forgot. It's like some super tiny amount, right? And so small is good, right? The whole purpose of fund one is to get you to fund two. And remember, in fund one, you're just super risky, right? And so most like professional LPs are prevented by charter from funding you. And so you got to get this done primarily with high net worth individuals and family offices. This is not a set rule. Some of you might be able to not do that, but as a general rule, that's a good place to start. Okay. So, small is good. $5 million, maybe 10 max, whatever, that kind of level. And, you know, I can't tell you what the best location is because your thesis is going to determine that, right? So if you're based in a certain country, you're going to probably raise that in that region. And so that really is determinant on where you're from. And then where can it be set up? Like funds have domiciles, everyone. So generally there's global domiciles that a lot of LPs are comfortable with investing in, such as Delaware, right? That's a very big international domicile, even though 66% of funds that we launch are outside the United States, the majority of those are actually incorporated in Delaware. There's others like Singapore, Luxembourg, BVI, right? These are like kind of global domiciles for funds, right? And so you're going to most likely put the fund outside of your country. That's generally how this goes. Okay. All right. Can you clarify general socialization specifically isn't just asking people to become LPs in your funds? Could you verbally say to people a list of and list your fund's website, blah blah blah? Yeah, no. So there's an entire article on this on general solicitation. Basically you can't have anything online about your fund. Okay. You only want to pitch people that you know. Okay. And you can have a conversation with people that you already have that existing relationship predetermined, but you can't go on like Twitter or LinkedIn and be like, hey, I'm raising a fund and here's my website. Okay. And even if the rules weren't in place, you doing that would look terrible, right? It would look super cheesy. It's like not great. You're like a kind of an exclusive offering for LPs to invest in. So it's not even that helpful anyways. But yes, you generally across the world, there's serious rules around this. In Europe, you can go to jail for this, right? So this is serious. This isn't like, haha, I can kind of potentially like push the boundaries on this. So no, you don't want to talk about the fund. There's an entire article about that in the chat that you can read about it there. Okay. Can Decile Hub still be used post first close upon graduating from the program? Yeah, I mean, again, Tamani, you're gonna use Decile Hub probably for forever if you're running a firm, right? Because you're gonna be always fundraising, so you're gonna need that CRM functionality. You're gonna need to provide reports and accounting and all this stuff for your fund, so that is kind of enduring. You're gonna be investing in businesses, right? So that's also enduring. You're going to write deal memos on those businesses, and it's got full on deal memo functionality, right? So that's all in there, right? So no, you're going to use Decile Hub for a while if you're going to launch an enduring VC firm. Can you expand on the pact you mentioned? What is needed to access the curriculum? We can, a pact think of a pact as a signed letter of intent. And this is probably one of the biggest and most impactful fundraising innovations that we've had in our history. I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here. Look, you all that are just fundraising, or even some of you that have been fundraising, are kind of going into a world full of bullshit. Okay. Basically, you're going to talk to a whole bunch of LPs. And they're going to tell you, I really like your fund. This is amazing. This is amazing. And you're going to like write them down. It's like, oh, they're heart circle. They're probably going to come into my fund. There's a term for this. It's called LP love. And it's like, I love you. I love you. I love you. And then they never invest anything in your fund. So you're going to end up wasting an enormous amount of time with basically people that are kind of leading you on. And again, they're not doing this because they're evil people. They're just afraid to tell you no, because they want to preserve maximum optionality, in case you do become super successful. They don't want to rub you the wrong way, that kind of stuff. So you just have no idea. And what used to happen before the pact is that people would go into these like closings and formations. They would spend $100,000 or more on lawyers to get their stuff formed. And they would send the docs out to these people that they thought they had hard circled, and none of them would wire in any money. And it would fail. And now they owe the lawyer $100,000. They can't pay that with the funds money or anything because they don't have any money, right? And so what the pack does is this beautiful innovation where basically instead of having people like read and sign these super complicated legal agreements, which are, like pretty extensive, you just make them sign this really basic thing and you say, hey, look, this is a letter of intent. It's non-binding, but it does help me reserve your position in the fund. And by doing so, you're able to sort of know that by that person taking the action of actually saying, I'm in for this much money and actually signing their name to it, the probability that you're going to close them is like 75%. Okay. And that's a lot of, there's just a lot of like power in that, right? Because now you know that you should be focusing on the people that have signed the LOI, maybe not wasting time with others and things like that. And so the pact is just your best friend. Okay. It also helps just from a closing and onboarding perspective, for the product people in the audience, right? Like if you sort of try to overwhelm people with like a really complicated user experience, it's really hard for them to sort of sign up for your product. If you just make them do one little thing initially, that makes the next thing that you ask them to do a little bit easier and a little bit easier. So it's like a series of steps. And so it makes the closing process a lot better and a lot easier for you as well. Does the program include some kind of fun demo day for LP matchmaking session prior to graduation? Hell no. Okay. That is illegal. Okay. And when you see people saying this kind of stuff online, because there's other out there, like I think there's like an accelerator cohort or something that's in our space that's pitching this. That's basically illegal. Okay. And again, we're an international organization. And in some places it's like super bad. In some places it's just fines or whatever. In some places it's super bad, right? So no, like you have to have a relationship. The other thing, they don't work. Okay. And again, everyone, sorry again to rant on this brief tangent on this whole issue again. If anyone tells you that I'm going to be able to sort of like magically find LPs to introduce you to, and you should go into my program or you should pay me for this or whatever, you should run away. Okay. There's no such thing. It doesn't work. Okay. This isn't like investing in a startup where you have some traction, you understand the company, it's using some basic stuff. Here, you're basically making a bet on a person to manage your money for the next 20 years if you're an LP. Okay. And so the idea, right? The idea that some kind of organization is going to be able to find like the perfect LP that matches the perfect GP, that matches the perfect thesis is ridiculous. It generally doesn't work. And no one's been able to crack this. Okay. No single organization has been able to crack this. And so what do? They basically provide a whole bunch of like mistargeted LPs. And you're going to feel really great about yourself because you met these mistargeted LPs that are never going to fund you. Okay. And you've wasted a whole lot of time, right? Because like you can't have a KPI that's introductions in any sort of business for this to work. The only KPI is like money in the bank account. All right. Now we're trying to fix this for you. So we're trying to crack this. And the way we're doing this is very different. We're actually training LPs on how to invest in VC Lab alumni. And then we feature the top alumni that, we power with our back office, which makes them incredibly safe, where I don't have to worry that, that this LP is going to invest in some completely unsafe fund, right? So I take that whole risk off the table, and the only decision they have to make is, do I believe in the strategy and the thesis? And we try to do that because we have like perfect information almost. But that's because we have all these cohorts, right? And we run through and we know who works and who doesn't. Like, so we have a better shot at it, I would say, to crack this, but even us, we haven't cracked this, okay? And so if you're joining a program, including this one, to get introductions to LPs, this is not the program for you. You're not going to have a good experience here. Do not join. okay? This is not the place for it. You're going to probably meet some just because there's going to be LPs in your cohort and stuff like that, but it doesn't work like that, right? Fundraising is all about the perfect GP meets the perfect thesis, meets the perfect LP that cares about that thesis and that GP, okay? And that's kind of like how you're going to get this whole fund done, all right? So hopefully that's useful and helpful for everybody here. What fees should we expect once we graduate from the program? Like there's, again, the program is free. Again, there's no catch here, so there's no fee for anything that we do. Everybody here, once you get your business operational, which is why, again, you need to have a good amount, generally $1 to $2 million in signed letters of intent before you start hiring vendors to sort of run your operation. And these vendors are super expensive, and they should be, because this is a super complicated financial product, right? At that point, you should expect that you're going to be, building out an operation team and all this stuff to make that happen. But that's not something to worry about until you actually get to a point where the fund sort of makes sense economically. And we're going to cover all this. We're going to cover economics. You're going to get details about what you should expect to pay for stuff and all that in the program. We serve it on the platter for you, so you don't have to like sit there and research too much, but it's up to you if you want to go deeper. But that's it, right? There's no requirement for you to pay for anything with VC Lab. Do you share any templates for outreach to set up initial meeting? Yeah, so when you're going to get access to Hub, Andy, and in Hub, you're going to have a lot of emails pre-written from us that we found to be pretty effective. And that's, again, another benefit of Hub, right? Is we built this together with thousands of GPs from the VC Lab community, and we've been iterating on all the tools and systems. So you're going to get templates and things like that as needed. And then, of course, you need to adopt them to your own style. Has your fund of funds invested outside the United States? If you have not invested, have you invested in Nordic VCs? Nordics perform better than US or Western Europeans in general, but not known as that area. I mean, that's a pretty big claim you're making there, dude. Look, we have invested in some in funds outside the United States. I would say, though, that pretty much, again, most funds that are outside the United States put their funds in Delaware. Okay, they're not going to generally do it in the Nordics. Some may, but just the costs and the process of dealing with the EU regulations and AIFM and marketing passports and all that stuff is pretty gnarly, right? Like you're going to need to spend 100 to 150,000 euros just to set things up, plus filings and all that stuff. So a lot of people with like small funds, which is what we generally encourage people to do, can't afford to put funds in the Nordics, just, unless they go under someone else's umbrella, and then now you no longer own your fund. It's kind of like putting your fund on AngelList, right? That's not your fund, that's AngelList's fund. So yeah, we back people from outside the United States, but I would say like most people are going to have incorporated, in Delaware, if that makes sense, even though they may be in a different country. The people who are creating new VCs can also apply. Yeah, exactly. Like I would say 80% of people that, or maybe even as high as 90, depending on the cohort, are new. And so that's what we specialize in. And what we've learned is that a lot of these principles apply to emerging managers. And then what we did is we set up an emerging manager track for people on Fund 2, Fund 3. And so, that's how we scale, but we started with new managers. So there you go. There's a question here. What percentage of applicants that are admitted to the program that are emerging first-time fund managers? Again, most. This is a program for first-time and emerging managers. This is not a program for established managers. If you're actually too established and too far along, we will decline your application. Okay, so this is, again, for founders of new VCs primarily, as well as some folks that maybe have one or two funds under management, and that's kind of their, you know, their uh, like their first kind of test fund, that kind of stuff. Okay. There's a question: does Decile Capital community of LPs get involved with funding closing new for new managers? Yeah, I mean, we have a fund of funds that specializes in funding new managers, and we back the top 5% of alumni with that. And we are running a bunch of initiatives to encourage more LPs, especially family offices and fund of funds, to invest in new and emerging managers because they typically perform better. It's just they're risky and stuff like that. So we're running a lot of different things for it. So yeah, really quick, everybody. One last announcement really quick. If there's more questions, feel free to add them into the Q&A. But a lot of you got acceptance emails, but you haven't replied back to us. You need to reply back to us to confirm your enrollment. Okay. We're not just gonna like, okay, you're accepted, boom, now you here are the details. We need you to confirm your enrollment and to tell us that you're in, and you need to share the Mensarius Oath publicly on your social media, like LinkedIn. And then we're going to verify that because we want to work with ethical individuals that are going to be good stewards of this asset class in the future. And everybody in your cohort has taken the Mensarius Oath. Everybody before you, all the thousands of alumni have taken it. So, this is a key principle to why we do what we do. So yeah, the program's free, but it's hard, and you need to be aligned with the Mensarius principles of the Mensarius Oath. Otherwise, we just, it's not a good fit for both of us. Okay, so make sure that you get that done. Check your spam, right? Because again, there's several of you that haven't done that. Can fund managers make investments before the fund is closed in VC Lab? And is that part of the investment agreement? Yeah. So Wayne, this is called warehousing. So we're going to cover this in detail as well. Some people will make like an angel investment into a company that's really good, and then they'll transfer that into the fund at cost. And that's called warehousing. And it's a huge benefit to LPs, obviously, right? Because if you got into a really good company before you close the fund, and then you're telling them, here's this gift, I'm going to go ahead and transfer this fund in at cost, and take, it's like a huge gift to the LP, and that may de-risk the fund even further. So yeah, make sure. The only thing I would say though is, and I see people kind of sometimes mess up warehousing. Couple things on warehousing really quick before we wrap. One, you need a policy, Wayne, and everybody else. Okay, like you can't be cherry picking deals, right? You can't be like, well, I'm going to move this fund, this one into the fund, not this one into the fund. Nah, that's bad. So you got to be like, okay, like the last investments from the last 6 months, I'm going to move those into the fund. Or the funds, the investments that I've done, like with this criteria or something, we're going to move those into the fund. But you need some sort of kind of policy on doing that, and you really want them to sort of prove your thesis, right? Like it's super weird if you're doing like I don't know, a deep tech fund, and then you move in some sort of prop tech investment in there, and it's like, what does this have to do with what you're doing, right? So so there you go. Cool. And then there's final question here: is there a cost fee for using Decile Hub? No, it's free. We make money if people end up working with us in our sort of kind of back office and fund operations system. It's called Decile Partners, and for that you have to apply, right? So we're that is something we want to make sure that it's like a win-win scenario, and that's how we monetize. And all of this is all laid out for you perfectly in like your week 1 curriculum and all that. So we make money from that. We also have a fund of funds and things like that. And yeah, at some point in the future, maybe at scale, there might be some modules that we may want to launch in Decile Hub that we may want to charge for, but that's sort of TBD right now. Right now, I just want to try to clear the way for new and emerging managers to launch these new and ethical venture capital firms that are going to make the world a better place. Because if you sort of think about this, most of the things that most of the problems in the world, right, are generally going to be solved by startups, that are fixing all sorts of problems for us. And we need those to be funded. And those startups are everywhere now. They're no longer just in Silicon Valley, they're in Africa, they're in Canada, they're in Mexico, they're in the middle of the United States, they're in Asia, right? And we need more, new ethical managers to go out and start funding the future of humanity. And that's why we're doing this as a whole. And yeah, if we get this right and we do this right, it's going to be a great business as well. That's in perfect alignment with what you're trying to achieve as well. And we think about that very hard to make sure that the incentive systems are created correctly. That's why the program is free, right? That's why the program is hard. That's why the program needs needs you to take the Mensari's oath, right? Because we only want to help the people that really are going to thrive and take full advantage of this opportunity, and yeah, if there's going to be lots of opportunities for us to monetize if that's, and if we can do that by either funding your fund or powering your fund with our back office by things like that, then great. Then we're maximum alignment towards success. So, final thing I'm going to say on this, our whole purpose for those of you that join is to help you be successful at your craft. Okay, that's it. We want you to be super successful, and we've aligned our entire business model and incentive system to allow for that to happen. So if you are interested in launching an enduring venture capital firm here, apply to Cohort 15. If you've already applied and got an admissions decision, make sure that you reply back to us so that we can get you enrolled. All right, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully, we'll see you in Cohort 15. Bye, everyone.